I never thought I'd be here writing about this. My wife Jessica and I had a seemingly perfect life. We lived in a cozy suburban neighborhood, had a beautiful daughter, Lily, who was dedicated to ballet, and by all accounts, we were that couple everyone else envied. At least that's how it appeared on the surface. For years, Jessica and I built our life together. We married young, just out of college, and I thought we were solid. However, things started to feel off a few months before the incident, but I brushed it off. Jessica had become more distant, often preoccupied with Lily's ballet competitions. I understood that she was passionate about our daughter's dancing, but it was like a switch flipped. Suddenly, Jessica was wrapped up in the ballet world, and I was just a supporting actor in the show. Her late nights and quick phone calls became more frequent. I would hear her giggling on the phone after I put Lily to bed, and every time I walked into the living room, she'd quickly put her phone down and act like nothing happened. It was subtle, but it started to gnaw at me. I mean, what was so funny that needed to be whispered. But you know how it goes, life gets busy, and I kept telling myself it was all in my head. That was until the weekend competitions came around. I had no clue that those weekend trips to the dance studio would turn my life upside down. I was at one of these competitions when I ran into a few of the other dance moms. They were all sitting together, and from the corner of my eye, I noticed Jessica chatting intimately with our daughter's ballet instructor, a young guy named Ryan. I didn't think much of it at first, just another parent being friendly. However, the way they shared glances, the laughter, it felt too intimate. Later, I overheard snippets of conversations from the moms around me. They were gossiping about Jessica, about how she acted around Ryan. "He's just a kid," one mom said, "and she's like a schoolgirl around him." My gut twisted and I felt a pit growing in my stomach. Then one mom, Lisa, looked straight at me and said, "You should watch them together. It's not right." That comment hit me like a punch in the gut. I started paying closer attention to Jessica and Ryan. During the competition, I watched them as they shared private jokes. Their heads leaned in together and I felt my heart racing. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Later that night, I confronted Jessica when we got home. At first, she dismissed my concerns, rolling her eyes and brushing it off as typical dance mom drama. But I pushed. "Is there something going on with you and Ryan?" I asked, heart pounding, trying to gauge her reaction. Her demeanor shifted instantly. She snapped back, "Why are you being so ridiculous? He's just a teacher." But that wasn't enough to calm my growing doubts. I couldn't let it go. Days passed and I found myself digging deeper, retracing every step she took. My instincts were screaming at me. I had to find the truth. The next weekend, during another competition, I decided to follow her. I made an excuse to leave work early, and before I knew it, I was parked outside the dance studio watching. What I saw shocked me to my core. Jessica was laughing with Ryan and they shared a kiss, an intimate kiss that shattered everything I thought I knew. The world around me blurred as I sat there, my heart racing and stomach churning. I felt sick, betrayed, and utterly defeated. It was real. She was cheating on me with our daughter's ballet instructor. I didn't know how I'd face her after this. My mind raced with thoughts of betrayal, anger, and heartbreak. I was lost in a whirlwind of emotions, and I didn't know how to proceed. I felt like my entire life had just disintegrated in front of my eyes. I finally turned off the car and headed home, knowing that a confrontation awaited me. I felt a mixture of anger and sadness, but mostly I felt lost. Still, a part of me was determined to confront her about what I had seen. When I walked into the house that night, the air felt charged, heavy with unspoken words. Jessica was in the kitchen, a glass of wine in hand, as she hummed absent-mindedly to a song playing softly on the radio. She looked so relaxed, so unaware, and it made my blood boil. How could she act like nothing was wrong? I cleared my throat, and she turned to me, her smile fading slightly as she read the tension on my face. "Hey, everything okay?" she asked, her tone casual, but I could see the flicker of concern in her eyes. "No, Jessica, everything is not okay," I snapped, my heart racing. "We need to talk." I could tell that my tone took her by surprise. "About what?" she replied, feigning innocence, but I wasn't buying it. "About you and Ryan," I said, my voice steady but laced with anger. "I saw you two together at the studio. Don't lie to me." Her face paled, and for a moment I thought I saw genuine fear flash across her features, but it was quickly replaced by that familiar defensive posture. "What are you talking about? We're just friends. You're being ridiculous." "Friends don't kiss, Jessica," I shot back, my chest tightening. "I saw you. Do you think I would make something like that up? I'm not stupid." She rolled her eyes, and I could see the defiance building inside her. "You're overreacting. It was just a kiss on the cheek." "You're so paranoid about everything lately. Maybe you need to focus on something besides ballet competitions." "Stop deflecting. This isn't about me being paranoid. It's about you betraying me." I fired back, feeling the heat rise in my face. "How long has this been going on? How can you even look me in the eye?" "Don't twist my words," she hissed, her voice rising. "You're making this into something it's not. Ryan is a good teacher, and I'm just trying to support our daughter." "Support our daughter by cheating on her father?" I couldn't hold back the sarcasm. "You've changed, Jess. You're not the person I married. You're so wrapped up in all of this that you've completely lost sight of what matters." At this point, she erupted. "You're such a hypocrite. You've been distant too. You've been working late and paying more attention to your job than our family. Maybe if you had been more involved, I wouldn't have felt so alone." That hit me like a slap in the face. I knew I had been busy with work, but I was doing it all for us, for our family. My heart sank deeper, realizing how far apart we had grown, but that didn't excuse her actions. "That's not an excuse for what you did, Jessica," I raged. "You could have talked to me instead of running to him." "Whatever," she spat, crossing her arms defensively. "You're just going to twist this around to make it my fault. Typical." The argument spiraled out of control, and as we hurled accusations and insults back and forth, I felt a part of me breaking. I was losing the woman I once loved, and it was tearing me apart. Finally, I just stopped arguing, feeling the weight of despair settle on my shoulders. "Do you even care about us anymore?" I asked, my voice quieter now, laced with sadness. "What do you want from this? Is this what you want, to be with him?" She looked away, biting her lip. "I don't know what I want," she admitted, her voice shaky. "Things have just been complicated." Complicated. That was the understatement of the century. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, the ground crumbling beneath me. I didn't want to lose my family, but I couldn't continue living a lie. After what felt like an eternity of silence between us, I made a decision. "I can't do this anymore. I need time to think," I said, feeling my heart break as I walked away. I needed to gather my thoughts to process everything. I retreated to the bedroom, feeling hollow and numb. That night, sleep eluded me. I tossed and turned, replaying every moment of our marriage and the recent weeks in my mind. I felt sick thinking about what she had done, the betrayal gnawing at my insides. As the hours crept by, I knew that nothing would ever be the same. I lay awake, wrestling with the pain and betrayal, trying to figure out how I could ever forgive her. The emotional turmoil had taken over every part of my life, and I was left grappling with the reality of the situation. I finally understood that I had to make a choice, not just about our relationship, but about my own self-respect. I had to decide what I wanted moving forward. It was time to figure out how to reclaim my life. The following days blurred together. I went through the motions of work and parenting, but inside I was a storm of emotions: anger, sadness, betrayal, confusion. I was a shell of the man I used to be. I avoided Jessica as much as possible, the house feeling more like a battleground than a home. Every time I saw her, I was reminded of the kiss, the laughter shared with Ryan. I couldn't fathom how she could act so normal. A part of me wanted to scream at her, to force her to confront the reality of what she had done. But another part of me was terrified, not just of the consequences of that confrontation, but of what it would mean for our family. With Lily, things were awkward. She was still blissfully unaware of the turmoil raging beneath the surface. I tried to keep my interactions with her as normal as possible, but I felt like a fraud. I didn't want her to see the emotional wreck I had become. So I put on a smile, played the doting father, and forced myself to attend ballet practices, always looking over to where Jessica and Ryan would stand together, coaching the class. That Friday, I finally decided to confront Jessica again. I felt like I was at a breaking point, and I couldn't keep living in this limbo. We needed to have a serious talk. I waited until the evening after Lily had gone to bed to confront her. As I sat at the dining table, I could hear her moving around in the kitchen. The clatter of pots and pans felt ordinary, but I knew it masked the chaos beneath. When she walked into the dining room, the moment felt charged. "Can we talk?" I asked, trying to keep my tone as calm as possible. Jessica raised an eyebrow, her arms crossing defensively. "About what?" "About us," I replied. "About you and Ryan. This can't keep going on like it is." Her expression hardened. "What do you want me to say? That it was a mistake?" "Because it was. You don't understand what I feel. You've been so wrapped up in work that I felt alone. I needed someone to talk to, and Ryan was there." "Needed someone?" "You didn't just talk to him, Jessica. You crossed a line." My heart raced again, the frustration boiling to the surface. "How can you sit there and justify what you did?" "I'm not justifying anything. I'm telling you how I feel. You've been distant for so long, and I've tried to reach out to you." She shot back, her voice rising. "Reaching out by cheating on me, by being intimate with someone else. How is that reaching out?" I couldn't help the tone of disbelief that crept into my voice. "We could have worked on things together. We could have found a way." "Maybe I didn't think you wanted to work on things," she accused. "You've been so busy with your job, and you've made it clear that you're not interested in what's happening with me and Lily." I could feel the walls closing in. I didn't want to let this escalate into another argument, but I had to make her understand how serious this was. "I'm still here, Jessica. I've always been here. You made the choice to turn to him instead of talking to me. You could have come to me, but you didn't. You kept lying to me." She looked down, her eyes brimming with tears. "I didn't want to hurt you. I thought I was just going through a phase, but it turned into something more." That admission hit me hard. "So what now? What do you want? Do you even want to fix this?" She hesitated, and in that moment of silence I understood the truth she didn't know. "I don't know," she finally whispered. That crushed me. It felt like the ground had fallen away beneath my feet. I had spent years building a life with her, and now it seemed like she was just willing to let it all slip through her fingers. "If you don't know what you want, then how can we keep going like this? I can't keep living with the uncertainty. This is killing me." "I never meant to hurt you," she said softly, tears spilling over her cheeks. "I thought I could handle it. I thought it was just a fling." "A fling? You're talking about our marriage like it's nothing," I said, my voice trembling. "I don't want a fling, Jessica. I want a partner, someone who values our family and our commitment. Can you say you still love me?" Another pause stretched out painfully. I, "I don't know," she finally admitted, her voice breaking. "I do know if I can love you the way you need me to right now." That admission hurt more than any betrayal. It felt like the final nail in the coffin. I realized that I had to take control of my life and my heart. I can't be in a relationship where trust is gone. I can't be with someone who isn't sure of us. Jessica's face fell, and I could see the panic in her eyes. "What are you saying?" "I think it's best if we separate," I said, the words coming out heavy but resolute. "I need time to figure out if I can forgive you, and I need to put myself first for once." The shock on her face was palpable. "You can't be serious," she whispered. But I was. I had to be. I was tired of being the one left in the dark, tired of feeling like a fool. It was time for me to find my own path, my own happiness, with or without her. As I left the dining room, I felt a mix of relief and sorrow. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but it was a step toward reclaiming my life, one that I desperately needed. The following days felt surreal. I moved through life in a haze, physically present but emotionally detached. I had told Jessica that I needed space, but the reality of a potential separation hung over me like a dark cloud. I spent my evenings in the living room, surrounded by the remnants of our life together, photos of happier times, Lily's drawings taped to the fridge, and the echoes of laughter that felt like a lifetime ago. I had always imagined a future filled with family dinners, birthday parties, and milestones. Now, I was staring at a future that felt uncertain and bleak. Conversations about separating felt monumental, and the thought of telling Lily weighed heavily on me. She was so innocent, so oblivious to the cracks forming in her world. How could I explain to my little girl that things were changing? One night, as I sat alone on the couch, staring at the TV without really seeing it, I decided it was time to reach out to someone. I called my best friend, Mike. He had always been my sounding board, the one person who knew the ins and outs of my marriage. I needed his perspective, someone to help me navigate this emotional minefield. "Hey man, long time no talk," Mike said when he answered. "Yeah, it's been a rough few weeks," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I think I might be separating from Jessica." "Whoa, what happened? I thought things were rocky, but I didn't realize it was that serious," he responded, his tone shifting to concern. I took a deep breath and recounted everything. The late nights, the kiss I had witnessed, the confrontation. Mike listened intently, never interrupting. When I was finally done, there was a long pause on the line. "You know, it sounds like you've already made up your mind," he said slowly. "If she's unsure about you and your relationship, maybe it's time to prioritize yourself. It's not just about her anymore. You have to think about your happiness too." "Yeah, I know," I said, feeling a weight lift just a bit. "But how do I even begin that process? I feel like I'm drowning in emotions and uncertainty." "Start by focusing on yourself. Get some hobbies, spend time with friends, and maybe consider talking to a therapist. It can help clear your head. You need to reclaim yourself before you can figure out what to do with the relationship," Mike suggested. We talked for a while longer, and by the time I hung up the phone, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I had spent so much time wallowing in my pain that I had neglected my own needs. It was time to take control of my life, one step at a time. The next day, I began to take those steps. I reached out to a therapist who specialized in relationships, hoping to gain some insight and clarity. The first session was both uncomfortable and cathartic. I poured my heart out, detailing my feelings of betrayal, anger, and confusion. I learned that it was okay to feel lost and overwhelmed, especially in the face of such a profound change. During our sessions, I started to untangle the web of emotions that had ensnared me. I learned the importance of self-care and how to establish boundaries. I started to focus on myself, rediscovering passions I had long neglected, reading, exercising, and even dabbling in cooking. Meanwhile, I maintained a civil relationship with Jessica for Lily's sake. We would talk about logistics and co-parenting, but the emotional connection felt frayed. I could see the guilt in her eyes as we navigated our new dynamic, and it only added to the turmoil I felt inside. One day, as I picked up Lily from ballet practice, I could see the worry etched on Jessica's face. She approached me cautiously, her body language tense. "Can we talk for a second?" "Sure," I replied, trying to stay neutral. We stepped away from the other parents, and I could see that she was struggling to find the right words. "I've been thinking a lot since you mentioned separating," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I realize how much I've taken for granted. I messed up and I'm sorry." I met her gaze, and for a moment I saw the woman I had fallen in love with, but then doubt crept in. "Sorry isn't enough, Jessica. You need to understand the impact of what you did." "I know," she replied urgently. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild our relationship. I don't want to lose you or Lily. I've been talking to Ryan and I'm ending things with him. I want to focus on us." Her words felt like a double-edged sword. Part of me wanted to believe her, to hope for a reconciliation, but the other part of me was terrified of being hurt again. "It's going to take more than words to rebuild trust, Jess. It's going to take time, and I can't promise I'm ready for that right now." She nodded, tears pooling in her eyes. "I understand. Just know that I'm willing to fight for us. Please don't give up on me yet." I wanted to reach out and comfort her, but the walls I had built around my heart had solidified. "I need to focus on Lily and what's best for her right now. I can't promise anything." As I walked away from that conversation, a mixture of hope and fear swirled inside me. It was clear that the road ahead was still rocky. I had a choice to make, whether to engage in this path of healing together or to prioritize my own growth and well-being. The uncertainty loomed large, but I knew I had to be true to myself. No matter what decision I made, I had to ensure it was the right one for me, for my daughter, and for our future. The days that followed the conversation with Jessica felt like a delicate balancing act. I was on a tightrope, trying to manage my emotions while navigating the complexities of co-parenting and the lingering betrayal. I had started to focus on my own healing, and while it felt good to reclaim a sense of self, the prospect of possibly reconciling with Jessica loomed over me like a dark cloud. I continued attending therapy sessions, which became a lifeline. Each visit brought clarity and perspective. My therapist, Claire, was incredibly insightful, helping me untangle the emotions I was grappling with. One particular session stood out to me. Rebuilding trust takes time, and it requires honesty from both sides, Claire said during one of our sessions. You need to evaluate what you truly want in your life and whether Jessica is willing to put in the work to earn your trust back. I want to believe that she can change, I admitted, feeling torn. But how do I know if it's genuine or just her fear of losing everything? It's about consistent actions over time, she replied calmly. Words can be empty if not backed by behavior. Pay attention to how she responds to your needs and feelings moving forward. That advice resonated with me. I realized that I had to set boundaries while still allowing room for communication. I decided to give Jessica a chance to prove her commitment to change, but I wouldn't be putting my own journey on hold. One weekend, Jessica invited me over to discuss co-parenting logistics for Lily. I accepted, knowing it would be the first time we were in the same space since our last confrontation. I wanted to remain civil for our daughter's sake, but I also felt the weight of emotions bubbling just beneath the surface. As I arrived at her house, I was struck by how familiar everything felt. The living room was filled with photos of us as a family, happy memories that felt like a lifetime ago. I took a deep breath and focused on the task at hand. Thanks for coming over, Jessica said, her tone tentative as she offered me a seat. I thought it would be easier to talk about everything in person. Yeah, I replied, trying to keep my demeanor neutral. Let's get this done. We discussed Lily's upcoming ballet performances and school events, but the conversation kept drifting into uncomfortable territory. Jessica occasionally glanced at me, searching my face for a hint of warmth or understanding. It was hard to ignore the longing in her gaze, but I steeled my resolve. Listen, I finally said, interrupting the flow of conversation. I know this isn't easy for either of us, but we need to be honest about what we want moving forward. Right, she said, her expression serious. I want to do better. I want to be a better partner, a better mother. I know I messed up, and I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I'm willing to put in the effort. I felt a wave of frustration wash over me. Effort is great, but it's going to take time for me to feel comfortable again. I need to see consistent changes, not just for me, but for Lily too. Jessica nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I understand. I just hope you can see how much I want to fix this. I miss us. I paused, my heart aching at her words. I missed us too, but I couldn't ignore the reality of the situation. It'll take more than just words, Jess. I need to feel that you're committed to rebuilding our trust. It's a tall order, but it starts with honesty. She looked down, her shoulders slumping. I promise to be more open. I'll do whatever it takes, just don't give up on me yet. That evening, as we wrapped up our conversation, I felt an unusual mixture of hope and caution. While a part of me wanted to believe in the possibility of healing, another part was still raw from the pain of betrayal. I knew that if we were to move forward, both of us had to be committed to the process. As weeks passed, Jessica made genuine efforts to change. She cut off contact with Ryan and started attending therapy herself. I could see her trying to be more present, more engaged in conversations, and more attentive to our daughter. Yet, every time she reached out with affection or concern, I felt a twinge of hesitation, as if I were walking on eggshells. In therapy, I shared my struggles with these conflicting emotions. I see her trying, but I'm still holding back, I admitted to Claire. I want to trust her again, but I'm terrified of getting hurt. That's completely valid, Claire reassured me. You've been through a traumatic experience, and it's natural to be cautious. Take your time and don't rush yourself into forgiving her. Focus on what you need in this moment. With time, I started to let my guard down, little by little. We began to have open conversations about our feelings and fears, and she shared her regrets and realizations. I could see that she was genuinely trying, and each moment of vulnerability slowly chipped away at the walls I had built. But the real test came when Lily had a ballet recital. I knew that Jessica would be there, and I could feel the heaviness in the air as we both arrived at the venue. My heart raced, thinking about how our daughter would be thrilled to see us together, but I was also apprehensive about how it would feel to be around Jessica in a public setting. As the curtains rose and the music filled the auditorium, I watched Lily dance with joy, and for a moment it was blissful to see her shine. Jessica was sitting next to me, and we exchanged small smiles as our daughter twirled across the stage. In that moment, I caught a glimpse of the family we once were, and it stirred something inside me. I realized that while the road ahead was uncertain, there was still a flicker of hope. But I also knew that the journey to rebuilding would require patience, understanding, and time. As Lily took her final bow, I felt a swell of emotion. I turned to Jessica, and for the first time in a while, found myself wanting to bridge the gap between us. Perhaps this could be the beginning of a new chapter, one where we both could learn and grow together. I was ready to see where this path would take us, one step at a time. The weeks following Lily's ballet recital marked a turning point for our family. The experience had stirred up feelings I hadn't expected. Watching our daughter perform had reminded me of the love that still existed, buried beneath the layers of hurt and betrayal. It was also a reminder of the potential for healing, not just for me, but for all of us. Jessica continued her efforts to rebuild trust between us. She was open about her feelings, often initiating conversations about her regrets and the changes she knew she needed to make. I found myself slowly letting my guard down, allowing small moments of intimacy to creep back into our relationship. We began to share meals together more often, laughing and reminiscing about the early days of our marriage, conversations that felt both nostalgic and painful. Each shared smile and touch felt like a tentative step toward reconnection. At the same time, I was still cautious. The scars of betrayal were not something that could be erased overnight. I had learned to prioritize my feelings and assert my boundaries. I made it clear to Jessica that while I appreciated her efforts, I needed to see sustained change. I also made an effort with Lily, fully committing to being present in her life. I took her to ballet practices, attended her events, and cheered her on from the sidelines. I wanted to create a stable environment for her, regardless of the turbulence between Jessica and me. One day, while picking Lily up from school, I overheard a group of parents talking about their own struggles with relationships. One mother spoke candidly about her husband's infidelity and how they had worked through it. "It takes time," she said, "but you have to want it, both of you. It's not easy, but it's worth it if you both commit." Her words resonated deeply within me. I turned to look at Jessica, who stood a few feet away, chatting with another parent. I realized that we were both willing to put in the work, even though the path was rocky. That evening, I suggested we have a family movie night. Lily's face lit up with excitement, and Jessica smiled appreciatively. We settled in on the couch with popcorn and blankets, and for the first time in a long while, it felt like we were a family again. As the movie played, I caught Jessica glancing my way, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. After the credits rolled, she turned to me, her expression serious. "I know things aren't perfect, but I want you to know that I'm committed to us. I'll keep working on myself and our relationship." I nodded, feeling a swirl of emotions. "I appreciate that, Jessica. I'm willing to give us a chance, but we both need to be committed to the process. Healing takes time, and we have to be patient with each other." "Absolutely," she agreed, her voice steady. "I want us to be better for Lily and for each other." In that moment, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. We were fragile, yes, but there was resilience in our bond. As we shared our thoughts and fears in the days that followed, I realized that we could navigate this together, one step at a time. Weeks turned into months, and while the journey was fraught with challenges, it was also filled with small victories. We went to couples therapy together, learning to communicate better and address issues as they arose. I discovered that I could express my feelings without fear of judgment, while Jessica learned to take responsibility for her actions and communicate openly about her emotions. As we worked through our struggles, I felt a newfound appreciation for the woman I had married. She was flawed like everyone else, but I also saw her strength and determination to change. In turn, I started to see myself as someone who deserved love and respect. One evening, as we sat together on the porch watching the sunset, I turned to her and said, "You know, I never thought I would say this, but I'm grateful for what happened. It forced me to reevaluate everything and reminded me of what truly matters." Jessica looked at me, surprised. "Really? You mean that?" "Yeah," I said, feeling the weight of my words. "It's been painful, but it's also been a journey of growth for both of us. We've come a long way, and I believe we can keep moving forward." She smiled, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Thank you for believing in us. I won't take it for granted again." As the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The future was still uncertain, but I knew that as long as we were committed to working through our issues, we could find a way to rebuild our lives together. I learned that love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice. A choice to stand by each other in the face of adversity, to communicate openly, and to embrace vulnerability. We were imperfect, but we were willing to try, and that made all the difference. In the end, I realized that sometimes the hardest experiences can lead to the most profound transformations, not just in relationships, but in ourselves. And as I held Jessica's hand, I knew we were on a new path, one that would require effort, but also promised hope and healing.